This is the Milo Beasley Show. This is the Milo Beasley Show. There's only one thing you need to know. This is the Milo Beasley Show. And now, here's your host, Milo Beasley.
And welcome to the Milo Beasley Show, episode number, I think 286, 289, I think. Oof, we're way up there. Please help me welcome at this time someone who I've been trying to get on the show for a couple of years now. Please help me welcome Mad Maxine. Janine, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. How about you?
I am good. A little bit cold. It's Florida, so not necessarily used to this.
I know. In the 40s. Ugh.
I'm Florida born and bred, so anytime it gets like this, I just like to stay warm and stay inside.
My sister and brother are visiting from Chicago, and and they think it's balmy. So it's like 3 degrees there. So it's all relative, right?
Yeah, they're outside in shorts and in the pool,
sunbathing. No big deal.
So you were born in West Germany, correct?
That's right.
Were you born at the Air Force Base there, or at an Air Force Base, or were you born? Because my previous guest, Daphne from WCW, was born also in West Germany at an Air Force Base. So I was like, what are the chances that my two guests, both involved in wrestling?
I was born in it was considered U.S. Soil because it was an army base.
Oh, okay.
It was tiny near the town of Idar Oberstein, and even though both of my parents are American, and it was considered American soil because it was an army base, right. I still could have at some point I think gone and gotten a German passport.
Wow.
And I wish I rue the day that I didn't follow up on that, because I actually went to high school in Germany.
Oh.
And I love Germany. It's just it was a great place to be in high school. There back in the late 70s when I was in high school, it was people did not they didn't really check your IDs. You didn't have to worry about being an underage drinker. Basically, it was not very restrictive at all. So, so I grew to love beer then, and now I'm married to a guy who brews his own beer, and it's amazing beer. Unfortunately, I stopped drinking a year ago, so I cannot drink his beer anymore. So it's kind of sad.
So, okay, so you went to school there. How many languages do you speak then?
I had a good handle on French because I was living on the border of France and Germany when I was in high school. I never learned German. I did have a pretty good handle on Japanese when we lived in Japan when I was a kid. But now I only speak English.
Right. It's all I speak. And I speak broken English at that. So how did you... Let's talk about your introduction to wrestling, the Mohawk. I mean, that the character, you only had 2 matches in the WWF, but you're still very I told people that I was interviewing you, and they were like, no way. You're still super iconic, and so so how did you get involved? And then whose idea was the Mohawk and the name and the look?
Like you, I went to journalism school at the University of South Florida, and I was introduced to writers like George Plimpton and others who were considered new journalists, where they would live something and then write about it. And I thought that sounded really cool. So I was looking for a project that I could do, and there were 3 possibilities, and wrestling came out on top, even though I had never watched. I'd watched maybe 1 or 2 matches when I was in college on TV,
right?
And but I'd never been to a live match. And I just thought, I'm athletic, I'm tall, I should be able to do this. And I was not prepared for how hard it was. It was, it's really like acrobatics. It's where you're having to do flips and throw yourself in the air and land without killing yourself. I mean, it took me a long time to just get the basics down. So I'd been training with Moolah, the fabulous Moolah, for 6 months, and I was getting tired of the 4 hours a day, 6 days a week of training. I mean, it's good because it's really intense. I mean, I think a lot of people who don't do that kind of residential training, they're maybe doing it once or twice a week. Man, when you're doing it 4 hours a day, 6 days a week, it really goes all the way in. I mean, even at this point, I think I could take a bump. Not that I want to. But so it was at the 6 month point, and I thought, I am really sick of this. I've got to do something to kind of get Moolah off the dime. And I was dating a really nice guy who was really into comics, and he introduced me to the character Storm from X-Men, who at the time she kind of evolved to be more of a Barbie doll, but at the time she was this kick-ass Mohawk African American like priestess, and she wore like this biker gear, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. Plus, I really love Mad Max movies.
Okay.
And there's like my favorites. And so with, I knew Moolah really liked long hair. She liked her girls skinny with long hair, and, and she wanted everybody to look really nice and neat when she came out of the ring. I mean, before and after, you really had to that was her era. Her era was like Mildred Burke. You would look like a movie star when you were outside the ring, and you always kept this kind of, persona. So I just said, the heck with it. I'm just gonna go down and found a hairdresser who was willing to zip the sides and perm the middle and make it all stand up straight. And she was not terribly pleased when I showed up. I smashed it down the first time. I came back to camp for my, while I was training. I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag, so I just put a bandana over my head, but then it fell off in the middle of practice. And I was like, okay, there's no covering this one up. So she called me to her place, and I told her that I wanted to be called Mad Maxine, and then that was for when I was a heel, and if I ever went babyface, that I would be Lady Maxine. Turns out I much prefer being a babyface. I mean, most people I know really prefer to be heel.
Right.
I really like babyface. I mean, to have little kids adore you, there's just nothing better.
I just got to know, because I used to have really long hair, and
have a mohawk, I'm thinking.
And no, not quite. So I used to have really long hair, and when I got it cut like 2 years ago, it was painful. So what was it like having your hair cut to that mohawk? What were you thinking, when those shears were going to your scalp?
I didn't think it was going to be a big deal because I had done everything to my hair. I'd shaved my entire head. I'd had crew cuts and different colors, and I didn't think it would be a big deal at all. But I could feel my heart, and I was just like, when it was like time to kind of zip it down the side, I was definitely kind of revved up and a little bit scared, and I was there with a bunch of my the trainees, with my wrestling buddies. We were all drinking cheap bubbly, and so with their encouragement and the liquid encouragement, I got through it. But it was. And then I also didn't anticipate that it was going to be, we were living in this town, Columbia, South Carolina, actually in a suburb of Columbia. And I have always been stared at because I'm 6'2" and a woman. And, I thought, it's not going to be a big deal. It was kind of different thing. In fact, the hairdresser warned me, says, people will always stare at this. And I was like, whatever. And eventually, I mean, I didn't realize how much they'd stare, but I got this button made, and I always wore that on my jacket. It said, "It's only a haircut." So
it can always grow back, I guess. So so you wrestled in '84, and again, like you only had a handful of matches. Did you get to meet?
I actually only had a handful of matches with WWF.
With WWF was what I mean. But did you meet Vince McMahon while you were there?
I did. Just a handshake. We didn't have much interaction. His booker, Gorilla Monsoon, was the person I interacted with, and really Moolah was there basically doing all the talking. I was like, I was just a
Right.
greenhorn, and so she was like, I'll do the talking.
Right. So she was like like an actual manager.
Yeah, that's what she
Wow.
wanted to be. And they pushed a contract at me, and I just was not expecting that at all. And I just said, that I needed to have somebody look it over, because not being a lawyer, not really knowing what the terms were. But then I showed it to a lawyer, and they said that was a piece of crap. So, don't sign this.
Right.
I was like, so, and that was fine, because honestly, I'd seen enough of Moolah and the way she worked that I didn't really want to be part of her crew, and it was a good decision to leave Columbia and to move back to Florida and get started with Wahoo McDaniel, who was the booker, but he was also wrestling, and he and I became partners.
So you weren't that surprised when all the stuff about the stuff about Moolah came out a couple of years ago, after the fabulous Moolah Battle Royal name was taken. So you really weren't surprised.
I mean, everybody who wrestled for Moolah knew all of this.
Right.
This is, and the only people who were in the dark were the guys defending Moolah. So, so 2 years, or 2018, when that all hit the fan, it wasn't a surprise to me, or basically anybody who knew her. So it's just, you don't want to speak ill of the dead. I mean, Moolah's long gone, and it's not classy to trash somebody who's dead. It's she did some awful things, she did some not so awful things, and it's her legacy. But you got to think, what is your as you're living, are you living a good life? Are you doing, will people say good things or bad things when you're gone? I mean, she didn't really care about that, obviously.
Right. And you were very close to being immortalized in cartoon form. Is this correct? During that time?
You just froze, Milo. You just froze. You were like this.
Hey, that's my best promo picture.
I didn't quite catch the question that you're asking.
You were very close to being immortalized forever in cartoon form. Do you ever think about that?
Yeah, that would have been cool, right? I mean, but I really try to live with no regrets.
Right.
I mean, that would have been cool for sure.
Would have been cool, but
it would be cool to have a doll made of my character. There was one made at the New York toy show like a year or two ago, and it was a one-off. And damn it, I'd really like to have one of those.
Yeah, hey, I know there's tons of toy makers out there that are getting into the wrestling action figure. Like, I know.
And do you have some behind you? You have some collectibles behind you?
I do. I have a couple of toys and stuff like that here and there. It looks cool. It looks cool, yeah. But
exactly, window dressing.
Exactly. So yeah, so I think that would have been cool. But then again, you left the WWE, and then you went to, so you had already obviously you had already lived in Florida, because you went to the University of South Florida.
Right. And so we ended up moving. Angel Vachon's family had a condo near Miami, so we moved down there, kind of just an easy way to get the hell out of Dodge.
Right.
And we went to matches, and we worked out at gyms, and we really tried to connect with the Florida wrestlers. But it turns out that you actually had to be based in Tampa for that to work. So I moved back up to Tampa, which was fine. It was my old home ground, and
old stomping grounds.
Yeah, exactly. So. And that I was told, go to the Gold's Gym, and sure enough, there was just a whole bunch of wrestlers there, and one of them who said, it was Rip Rogers actually. Who gave me his the number for the office, and said get in touch, and we ended up doing a deal, and but he didn't talk to me very much that time, because maybe he had that in his mind. It was really fun. And then later on, so Wahoo and I became partners, and then later on, Angel, I still think of her like that, because that's how she was known to me, even though now I think of her as Luna.
Right.
Anyway, she it was kind of that transition from Angèle, the cute, perky
Right.
blonde, to Luna, the crazy, wonderful heel, like just nonpareil. Anyway, so she came up, and then pretty soon after that, Peggy Lee Leather, or Peggy Fowler, also came up, and so the three of us were actually working all together at in various kinds of storylines, and that was just like the ideal. And we ended up renting a house together, and
Oh, cool.
just these kind of a dilapidated Victorian mansion that was super cool, and lots of bedrooms, and those don't exist anymore in Hyde Park, part of Tampa. Everything's
Nope.
all gentrified and super fancy and expensive. But back then, you could
Yes.
still rent a house for no money.
Did you ever have, when you were wrestling, and especially in Tampa, did you have people, did anybody come up to you after a match and been like, I went to school with you? Like,
I'm surprised I don't think it ever happened. I don't think I had a single, I think I was really focused on school. I didn't do it wasn't for me a big social thing. I had
right.
dropped out for a year after I did 2 years at University of Kentucky on a basketball scholarship, and then dropped out for a year to kind of figure out what I wanted to do, and then went back to school. So when I was in school, I was really focused. I was living with my boyfriend, so we didn't, I was, the social part of school wasn't
Right.
a very important part. So no, I actually didn't have anybody from USF come in and say howdy.
I would have thought that, they would have been like, oh, that was that big tall girl in class. I remember her. I mean, she didn't have the mohawk, but so yeah, so you like me, you got a journalism degree from the University of South Florida.
Right.
And so like again, for folks watching now, I told you when I had originally looked you up to be a guest, because again, very memorable, despite having like a 2-year career, very memorable. So I was like, oh, I think she would be a great guest. And then I looked up your information and saw that you had a journalism degree from the University of South Florida. And I was like, all right, I need to talk to her now. Like, I need to talk to her. So
you didn't get anything with the journalism degree, apparently.
I tried. So yeah, and then after that, did you continue up until after your wrestling, after your retirement, did you get back into the journalism field?
Yeah, let's see, I'd gone to my sister's wedding up in Washington, D.C., and met a guy who lived in Boston, and thought I'd like to check Boston out and like check this guy out. And so I lived up there for less than a year. It was too cold. It was just hideously cold. And while I was there, I was working for a Black newspaper. I kind of, through my journalism career, I always had like I worked for a lot of African-American publications. I just, really felt strongly that, had to do my part to, challenge racism and, be on the right side of that.
Absolutely.
And so I really enjoyed that job. Boston, notoriously racist town, unfortunately. But that's not what sent me packing back to DC. I just could not stand the cold and the bad drivers. Man, there's some bad drivers.
Really?
Oh my God.
And then now they all live in Florida now. So.
Oh yeah, well, and during the during the high season right now, they're all down here for sure.
Right. So tell me about infiltrating the Ku Klux Klan. How did that come about? Obviously, if you're working for a Black newspaper and you're 6'2" white girl, I guess it's pretty easy, to do that.
So in order not to go into debt to Moolah, which is how she would kind of get you in her grasp, so that you would basically have to do anything she said. I took a part-time job at a Kinko's, and there were these two well-dressed African-American gentlemen who came into the Kinko's, and they were getting a flyer done for to do a protest against the KKK rally that was going to be happening in a few weeks' time. And they were actually having a conversation between them and saying that they were worried about sending their reporter who was black to cover the rally, but they really needed it to be covered because they weren't sure that the local daily newspaper, the Statesman, was going to cover the rally appropriately.
Right.
So I said, well, if you need somebody, I'm a journalist. I could do that for you. And they were like, what? The Kinko's journalists? And I kind of, I just went over and talked to him about it. I kind of tried to keep it under wraps. I didn't really know, I was new to town, so I didn't know if the guy who hired me at Kinko's was to be trusted. And I really had to kind of keep everything on the down low. And, but it came, they hired me on freelance assignment, and I wore a short skirt and a tight top and thought, this will distract the Klan people. The Klan guys, they'll just be so distracted by my incredible beauty that they will not even worry about who I'm writing for. And in fact, I used my Florida credentials, press credentials to, prove that I was an actual journalist, and said that I was doing it on freelance assignment, and that I didn't have anybody lined up but that I would be writing both sides, that I would represent their side and the other side, and as you do.
Right.
And it was pretty, Columbia had a huge police presence at the rally, and they held it out of town. So even though I was pretty scared to do it, there was, I felt like there was some serious risk to my life by writing for the Black News, which was the newspaper involved. I thought, this is what a really hardcore journalist does. So, buck up.
Absolutely.
So I did it and put my name on it, and then eventually became the managing editor of the group of Black newspapers that the group owned.
Wow.
That were outside of, all over the state of Carolina. So I did that until I started getting, until Moolah booked me my first match. And I thought, well, I'm not going to be able to be, I'm not going to be able to be that dependable workhorse that they need. So I resigned. But, it was really good because it kind of gave, I had done environmental journalism before that when I was in Florida, and that was really important to me. And then getting into African-American affairs was, also important. I went into journalism because I really wanted to, make a difference, kind of like the people who covered Watergate. I just thought, that was really something to aspire to
Absolutely
try to make the world a better place. And, but then I also wanted to try to do something really different. So journalism and wrestling.
Have you thought about getting back in? With the way things are right now, have you thought about really getting into the game hardcore, like back into news reporting, stuff like that, writing?
I am still, I became a science writer over the years.
Oh.
I merged from kind of healthcare journalism. I moved, so then from Boston, I moved back to DC and became a healthcare journalist. And then from there, I did really hardcore science journalism, and then wrote about genetics and health, aging research. And at this point, I am writing about science for a number of websites, which,
awesome.
I love. It keeps my brain really from turning to mush. Really kind of, your brain has to be really firing and working well. And I'm retired, so I'm not really looking for a full-time gig.
Right.
If I was, I'd be looking over. I'd love to, there's a job over in Germany, and in the south part of Germany where I used to, where I learned how to sail, and I would just love to go back there. But they'd actually require me to work really hard. So no, I don't think so. I think I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. Plus, I'm writing the second book, writing sequel to the Chronicles of Mad Maxine, and then my husband and I are working on a one-woman show that we hope to take over to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I'm not sure if that's going to be going on this year. It was canceled this year, and I don't know if they're going to be having it this next year. But my husband's Scottish and original. Okay. He's an American now. And so got a number of creative fires and, fires just to keep my brain working. And then of course, exercising every day really hard because, got to fight the power because, and getting older, you got to just, if you're not using it, you are definitely losing it. So try
Yep.
not to lose it.
Do you still watch wrestling at all?
I do here and there. I mean, right now there is really not very much going on, and I think that's good. I mean, I think people putting that on hold while when the pandemic is raging and getting worse. I think that's definitely the right decision. But I do like watching women's matches. I mean, because I think there was a time there where the look of the women wrestlers kind of trumped their ability in the ring, and I don't think that's the case anymore. I think the women are trained as hard as the men, and watching a good match, yeah, it still gets me revved up for sure.
Do you have any favorites that you like to watch?
I really Kristen DeVille is
Okay.
somebody I think is worth watching. I think although she's had some injuries, unfortunately, and I think Leilani Kai has been training some women. I'm sorry, the names are not coming to me right now, but I know she has really been working hard down in South Florida, getting women trained for the ring, and you can't find a better person besides her.
Absolutely.
Although Susan Green in Columbia, South Carolina, I think is still training women and some men. But yeah, I mean, they're all they were all trained by Moolah or Moolah's minion Donna Christian Tallow. So you couldn't get better than that for training you.
So a big hot topic in wrestling over the past couple of years has been intergender wrestling. Men versus women. Do you think women should only wrestle women, or do you think, hey, if they can handle themselves, I
mean, I did it. I wrestled Percy Pringle, when that's what he was going by. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so I actually don't see a problem with that. I mean, as long as both parties are actually trained and not somebody fresh into the ring. I mean, you don't want people to get stupidly hurt because you have somebody who's just fresh and just doesn't know what he or she is doing. I don't see any reason why not. Although I tell you what, lifting Percy Pringle, 300-pound Percy Pringle, and body slamming him was one of the hardest things I've ever done.
I absolutely. I imagine. So we're gonna jump into the first of our two mini games that we have here on the Milo Beasley Show. The first is called the Milo Beasley Show frequently asked questions, where I ask you the same 5 questions that I ask on every Milo Beasley Show episode. Yep. So the first question, who is your very first celebrity crush?
Oh, first celebrity crush. Oh God, that is really hard. I have to say, I'm embarrassed to say it, but Grant came to mind.
Oh, okay. Hey.
He was really cute when he was young.
Right. Absolutely. I mean,
sort
of. Question number 2. Do you have a guilty pleasure song, like a song that you love listening to, even though maybe the most people possibly don't care for it?
There's a song, Gloria. It's from you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's the little disco song, right?
Yeah. I I have my feminist playlist, and I can even tell you who it's by. She's just amazing. All right.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, I was actually singing that song in my head.
I really like that one, and that just when I'm working out, that is Laura Branigan did that.
I had that song in my head earlier because I work with a woman named Gloria, and every time I send her an email, I sing that song in my head, so I know exactly what you're talking about. All right, question number 3.
Okay, get the deal.
Question number 3. Would you rather, if you had to, fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? So if you were being attacked and you had to fight one of them, do you think you could fend off a giant duck or 100 tiny horses?
100 tiny horses, because horses are herd animals. and you just kind of like would herd them along. Whereas ducks, once they start going after you, they can really like, I mean, I actually was attacked by a duck and like scooted down on my butt on a hill because it was just like flapping at me. They come after you.
Right.
So
And that
yeah,
was just a regular sized duck.
for sure.
uh,
That's
qu- question number 4. What is your favorite movie quote?
I'll be back.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I say that one all the time whenever like I have to like go somewhere.
To the bathroom.
I think everybody does. And then question number 5, not sure if you're a fan or not, but question number 5, is Harry Potter a hero or is he just a big jerk?
He is a reluctant hero. He did not choose to have his parents taken from him or to be, given the bolt. He is a reluctant hero. He did not ask for it. So I think he deserves sympathy.
Okay. All right.
And I'm going to have to rethink this Hugh Grant thing. He's definitely not my first, but I actually kind of liked him in that Christmas movie that he did.
I'm trying to think. I don't remember. All right. So, and then the next thing that we're going to do is called the Milo Beasley Show Top 5. Or ask you a random question. I think we're going to go top 5 favorite fast food restaurants.
I don't eat fast food.
Oh, okay. Well, we could change it up.
I'd say Chipotle.
Chipotle. All right. So we're going to do one that you actually, a better question. So top 5 favorite movies.
One of my very favorite movies is called Wings of Desire by a German director, Wim Wenders. And it's just magical. It just takes you away. There are angels that speak to humans and give them advice. And it has a circus in it and a trapeze artist. And it's just kind of a rollicking, great adventure. Just love that movie.
And we got 4 more top movies.
Oh,
yep.
I love movies. I heard The Mermaid Singing is a Canadian film I love. Let's see. I don't know. I mean, I really have so many. Firefly.
Okay.
I love that. Or I guess that's the series, but Serenity is
the movie, right?
That one.
With Alan Tudyk, yeah.
God, I love Mad Max. That was really good.
Of course.
There's a movie, Run Lola Run, which is like another German movie where it's just like this woman's just running like a bat out of hell the whole time in the movie, and she's just hardcore and awesome.
Awesome. So before we wrap up, let's do one of 2 things. One, let's plug your book, The Chronicles of Mad Maxine. Where can they purchase that?
You can get it off of Amazon, and you can get it from me. I can take PayPal or Venmo. And in fact, is it possible for me to send you that information to tag on to this?
Absolutely. We'll post it right there in the
right. Yeah, and I can just mail it out. I actually have a stack of them right here.
Oh, fantastic.
Love to sell them. And I also have 8x10s, photos of me. Here's a sample of me and all my mohawks.
Awesome.
Back in the 20s, back in my 20s. So anyway, yeah.
Yep. And then are you big on the social medias? Where can folks find you on the social medias? Again, so that way they can find your stuff.
I have a Facebook account, Hard Hitting Advice from a lady wrestler, and then I have an Insta.
Okay.
At Maxine. So yeah, you can find me.
Awesome.
I'd be happy to give you links too.
Awesome. So thank you very much for chatting with me today.
I'm glad we finally got around to this.
Yeah, and hopefully, the world opens back up, and maybe we can hang out at a local wrestling event here in the Tampa area. Is that are you in the Tampa area now?
No, I'm in Melbourne.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm in Orlando.
Oh,
so not too far. It's right down 528.
Bullying, but yeah, post COVID.
Yeah, no, it's.
Hell.
But we will, I guarantee you, I promise we will hang out one day. We'll tell lots of stories.
That sounds really good.
All right. So thank you again for hanging out with me, and I will talk to you soon.
Okay, stay
All
warm.
right. I will try. All right. Bye.
See ya.